3 lawyers sat with my stepmother and my brother in the private club dining room. White linen lay between us like a flag of truce. $26 million waited in the leather folder where my plate should have been. A fountain pen lay open on a blotter. It was the only thing here that looked hungry. The private club insisted on linen at brunch, even in late morning light. White cloth silver that rang soft when it touched porcelain, a bowl of lemons cut into perfect moons. On the baby grand by the window, a metronome ticked wooden pyramid brass pendulum patient as a heartbeat. Silver rang softly on porcelain. A bowl of lemons glowed like small moons. "Let's make today about peace," my stepmother said. She wore pearls and the smile you put on a sympathy card. My brother didn't smile. He pinched his napkin so hard he left the imprint of his nails in the cotton. The oldest lawyer nudged the folder toward me. "A mutual release," he said. "Quick. Elegant. You sign, we all avoid the ugliness. There's a codicil that clarifies your father's intent. Under it, your portion changes. We're offering you a settlement so no one has to argue about numbers. Numbers." Their mouths never said $26 million, but the air around the table did. The air had weight. The metronome ticked, tick, tick, tick. My father used to practice with one on Saturday mornings, tapping his ring finger against his thigh to feel the count. "Don't rush," he'd say. "Time isn't the enemy. Panic is." I folded my hands and looked at the folder. A release from what? From any claim to the trust as last modified, the lawyer said. "It's what your father wanted. The codicil. Cut me out," I said, to save him the theater. "No one is cut out," my stepmother said. "This just recognizes your situation. You're not married. You don't have children. It made sense to reallocate. You'll be taken care of." The pen gleamed. The pendulum flicked. A server set down a flute of something orange in front of me and retreated sideways, quiet as a cat. I opened the folder. On top, a cover letter on the firm's thick paper. Below it, the release. Behind that, a copy of the codicil, 4 pages blue ink, for the signatures a faint emboss, where a notary stamp had bitten too hard. I didn't read the letter. I let my finger rest on the stamp. Commission number 91873. Expires, I read the date. I read it again. The pendulum swung, the brass flashed. Somewhere in the kitchen, a tray clattered and then didn't. The lawyer spoke into the quiet. "If you litigate, the trust can pursue fees. You might end worse than this. Peace is cheaper." I turned a page as if I hadn't heard. The codicil recited where my father sat when he signed, who witnessed what he reconsidered. The words were careful. The ink trembled in 2 places, as if whoever held the pen had hands that weren't used to holding truth. "May I ask a question?" I said. "All of them," the lawyer said, in the way men do when they want to sound generous and sound tired instead. "If the original trust leaves me the share it leaves me," I said, "and this codicil contradicts that. Who is contesting my father's instrument? Me." I set my palm lightly on the leather. "Or you?" My stepmother's pearls went still against her throat. My brother looked at the lawyer, not at me. In the window, a rower moved across the river, oar blades lifting like white birds and vanishing. "No one is contesting," the lawyer said carefully. "We're simply propounding," I offered, "an instrument contrary to the original." He blinked. The pendulum swung. Tick, tick. I closed the folder, picked up my laptop from the floor beside me, and opened it. I'd asked to bring it for notes. They'd agreed because they thought I would write down what they said and then sign. The club's Wi-Fi greeted me by name. I typed. Secretary of State. Notary Commission lookup. There's a search field on the page if you know where to look. I knew where to look. The numbers from the stamp felt like a small song under my tongue. I entered the commission number 91873 and the name printed beside it, and the date the page said it expired. I hit return. A rectangle of information blossomed. It wasn't large. It didn't have to be. The word expired sat there in gray. The date sat there in black. 2 months before the codicil's date, the commission had gone dead. The metronome went on. The pendulum flicked left, flicked right, unconcerned with what it measured. I turned the laptop so the table could see. My brother leaned forward, then back, like a man leaning toward an ocean, and finding it is a cliff. The second lawyer sucked his bottom lip into his mouth and worried it with his teeth. The oldest lawyer peered. He made a soft sound that wasn't a word. It could be a clerical update lag, he said. Sometimes the database catches up fast when we call the number listed, I said. Speakerphone would be fastest. No one reached for a phone. The metronome's click got loud the way a watch does when you can't sleep. I'm not accusing anyone of anything I said because my father taught me not to fill silence with accusation when proof is enough. I'm only saying this codicil appears to carry a seal that wasn't alive on the day it needed to be. If you keep pushing it, we should talk about a different paragraph. I slid a second document out of my bag. It was a photocopy thanks to the firm's own courtesy copies back when my father signed the original trust. The clause sat on page 19 like a little snake sleeping. In terrorem, no contest. Any beneficiary who directly or indirectly seeks to nullify or modify the instrument for personal gain forfeits his or her interest. It says directly or indirectly, I said. I looked that up too. My stepmother found her smile again. It clung to the corner of her mouth and refused to move up. We're not seeking to nullify anything, she said. We're protecting your father's intent. My father's intent is in the instrument he signed when the notary's commission was alive, I said. I tapped the copy with one finger. It made a sound on the linen like rain. The oldest lawyer folded his hands. He glanced at my stepmother. He glanced at my brother. He glanced at the metronome as if he could ask it to stop. Even if you're right about the notary, he said a court could find substantial compliance. It happens. Sometimes, I said. And sometimes a trust protector reads a conflict of interest and uses the power the instrument gives him. I wondered which today would be. My phone buzzed once on my thigh, right on time. I didn't look at it. I didn't need to. My stepmother's phone buzzed next, then my brother's, then a dull chorus of haptics on the lawyers' belts. They glanced down as if their pockets had burned them, then up at me as if I were the match. Would you like to read it? I asked. I queued it last night. The notice goes to all known beneficiaries and fiduciaries. It's not personal. It's procedural. The second lawyer broke first. He lifted his phone a little like he was at a wake, and it was a handkerchief. Notice of appointment of interim trustee, the subject line said. Then, pursuant to Section 8.4 of the Hart Family Trust, the protector removes the current acting trustee and appoints Hamilton and Cole Fiduciary Services as interim trustee pending investigation of potential conflicts of interest. My father had never had a protector until the last revision, the one I held a copy of, and they had called old. He added it after my brother invited him to a fundraising retreat in Sun Valley, and the receipts didn't look like fundraising. My father was a gentleman. He played the piano on Sundays and read in a chair by the window until the light gave up. Gentle isn't the same as naive. He built guardrails while people insisted there weren't cliffs. No one wants ugliness, I said quietly, least of all me. But because we are among civilized people, we ought to agree on 4 items. I lifted a finger for each because sometimes people need to see the numbers as well as hear them. First, you withdraw the codicil and any communication that relies on it. No one has to admit it was invalid. You can say you reviewed the commission date and chose not to propound it. That will satisfy the clause on page 19 and allow us all to remain, eligible. No one told me that wasn't the word. The metronome clicked at 5/8 of a second. The brass's reflection kept finding my brother's jaw and running away. Second, all expenditures from the charitable sub-funds that can't be tied to an invoice for a charitable purpose will be returned to the trust corpus within 30 days. If you want 45, we can say 45. I've flagged a few items in the printouts. I slid a folder across the table. The top page showed 2 hotel charges labeled Fundraiser Outreach Hospitality, and then an invoice for 2 diamond bracelets that must have been very outgoing. Third, my stepmother steps down from the board of that sub-fund. Not forever. For 2 years. Enough to let an independent trustee and the protector appoint a neutral accountant who can mark what's clean and what isn't without having to breathe through linen. Fourth, no one disparages anyone. especially not in a church parking lot. That last part made my brother's snort involuntary ugly real. He clapped a hand over his nose and looked at the ceiling. My stepmother's pearls twitched. The oldest lawyer opened his mouth, closed it, opened it, and if we don't agree, I placed the original trust on the table and let him see the clause again. Not the words, the weight of them. If we don't agree, then the people who are fond of the codicil keep insisting it's valid, and the people fond of the clause watch them insist. And somewhere very nearby, a judge leans toward a database and the brass pendulum keeps going. But I hope we do, I said. Today is Sunday. The table took a breath as one animal. The attorneys bent their heads together, touching shoulders the way priests do when they can't decide which hymn to sing. They spoke too low to hear. The metronome kept time for them anyway. My father used to say count to 4. If they speak on 3, let them. If they don't speak on 4. Silence is a shape. People will try to fill it. Don't rush to rescue them. I counted 1, 2, 3. We'll withdraw the codicil, the oldest lawyer said. My stepmother's mouth made a line that could cut paper. 2 years, she said flatly. And we repay only what the accountant identifies. Of course, I said. My brother kicked his chair back a centimeter, and then forward so his toe hit the table leg. This is ridiculous, he said. Which is what men say when the heir says something else. The second lawyer slid the pen toward my stepmother. We should sign something reflecting this for the record, he said. A short-form memorandum. No admissions. I nodded. No admissions, I said. Only numbers and dates. The pen came to me last. My name looked right beside the words, no contest. It looked like my name on the day I was born, and like my name on every lease I broke when I thought the city would treat me better if I moved one more time closer to the river. When we were finished, the metronome was still ticking. The pendulum didn't care who signed what. The sun had moved across the table and bleached a corner of the leather to something you'd call cream. The lawyers left with their folder and their faces held carefully level. My brother left without a handshake. My stepmother closed her clutch with a click like a door locking. She stood. You always liked being clever, she said. My father liked being careful, I said. But thank you. I reached for my jacket. The metronome's tick crawled under the cloth and hid in my bones. I turned toward the piano and stopped it with one finger. The silence that came after felt like finding a seam in an ocean and stepping onto shore. As we filed through the foyer, a family in golf sweaters waited to be seated. The youngest boy stared at the metronome on the piano as if it might tell him the future. I wanted to tell him it won't. It only tells you when you're off.